Hey guys, welcome back. This is the Let Me Call You Back podcast with Declan Brooks. This is part 2 of a conversation we had with a special guest, Adomas Wareikis. Let's get right back into it.
Like they said, they stopped doing MK Ultra research, in the 70s. And they're like, yeah, we just didn't figure anything out. We didn't figure out how to hypnotize people or control their minds. And it's like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah. We just stopped. We didn't think there was anything useful. And like a lot of that stuff that's crazy.
Again, we found a working program. We're done.
Yeah, MK Ultra's wild because they took all that research pretty much from like around the world, but also all the illegal fucking experiments the Nazis did on Jewish people in the concentration camps. I just finished Operation Paperclip, which is a book all about bringing Nazis over. It's kind of OPSEC in the sense of like they kind of are
the scientists. You said, right?
They brought a lot of them over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll give you this weird, wild conspiracy theory. All those guys at Nuremberg that went to trial, a lot of those guys weren't really the ones that should have probably been on trial.
Yeah.
I mean, they all should have probably been executed.
It's partially how they started at NASA and everything involved with
Werner von Braun, yes. Yeah. The first head of NASA was a card-carrying party member of the Nazi Party. It's not even up to debate. Yeah, those guys are all fucking crazy, and they all should have just been killed. After the war, it was Stalin, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Churchill arguing about what to do with the Nazis after the war. And Churchill's like, we should only execute the 10,000 highest. And then Stalin's like, how about 50? And like Churchill gets all flummished by that. And like, he's like, what the fuck? And FDR is just like, hold on, boys. Let's just kill like 30. Let's kill like 30,000 instead. And
was it Truman at the end?
This is like Potsdam or Yalta. This is like one of the ones right before. It is FDR. It's but so like I have a conspiracy that like a lot of like the Nazis executed at Nuremberg were accountable heavily, but a lot of the ones that really should have been fucking executed got away.
Yeah.
Klaus Barbie, Otto Skorzeny, like all these guys who were doing domestic terror programs in the countries they were still residing in. Like Italy, we used a bunch of them. Ukraine, like we kept these guys around and used them. Like we kept the war guys around and kept them in Europe. That's another thing that I won't get into. Operation Gladio, stay behind forces to destabilize countries from falling into communist hands. But whatever. So we did that there, and then we did a program in the U.S. COINTELPRO where we did the exact same fucking thing without the Nazis. We just used local police.
Shit.
Go into COINTELPRO.
No.
I can't help it. It's so cool.
I know.
When he said it, I'm like, oh.
So Gary Heidnik.
We should have taken mushrooms.
Oh wait, actually, I'll do one more tangent about PTK. Jeffrey Dahmer. We know who Jeffrey Dahmer is. Yeah. Have you ever seen a show called America's Most Wanted?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, with Joe Walsh. His son, Adam Walsh, was
killed,
brutally fucking murdered, beheaded, similar to some bodies in West Germany. And around the same time that Jeffrey Dahmer had left the military and was living in Florida.
That's crazy.
And Joe Walsh adamantly denies this theory, but people claim they saw a man who looked like Jeffrey Dahmer. He had a big bushy mustache, which is really weird. He had the glasses and everything. And people allegedly saw him take the kid into the van that he drove for a local, a local shop he worked for. And all the evidence matches up. No one ever brought him in for questioning, nothing. Just a weird thing about Dahmer there.
That is fucking.
Yeah, he was obviously doing some fucking experiments too. Like, what was he?
Well,
that's the fear
where he was getting. Where was he getting his fucking? He got that acid. You can't just buy
vats of acid,
a tank of acid. Yeah. Well, his father though was a total fucking psycho and was a chemist and had access to high level. Yeah. So
they chalked it up to taxidermy in the movie, right? Is that?
I've never watched any of that stuff. I don't engage with a lot of that stuff. I just think it's bad.
Yeah,
it's fucking weird.
And he somehow got that big vat of acid to dissolve those bodies. It doesn't make sense. But he was caught multiple times by the police. And so McGowan's why is that? Why do these people all keep getting caught repeatedly? And it's a pattern of catch and release. Because it works for domestic terrorism. Yeah. It works. It scares the fuck out of people. It's crazy.
There's an instance where he's with an underage kid out front. I think it was an Asian child.
Underage Filipino.
Yeah.
14-year-old.
They drilled a hole in his head.
With a hole in his head and carbolic acid in his brain. And the cops see that. They're totally fine with it. And I'm like, I don't think you really have to fucking... Oh, yeah, the police suddenly really cool about gay people and pedophilia. Fucking... Like,
oh, he's just having fun.
Yeah, they just didn't.
They're just silly gays.
The way they acted was like the cops just didn't want to get gay on them. They just didn't want to touch them.
Yeah,
Like,
they were suddenly worried about. They're like,
oh.
I remember I did a joke on stage. They're like, well, listen, we don't want to be homophobic. It's wild. Like, you suddenly have to believe that they are. I don't know. And like that's like a thing. Like after the World War II, we hired so many soldiers into police departments, the FBI, CIA, all these different things. I think the mayor of Dallas, when JFK was assassinated, his brother was CIA, if I remember correctly. So like there are these insane overlaps, and like people are like, well, that's just tertiary. It's like, no, those connections actually turn out to be pretty relevant almost always. It's like a mob.
Yeah.
Which I will mention that also in a little bit. But anyways, I will get into Gary Heidnik for like 20 seconds.
Gary Heidnik, tell me about him.
Gary Heidnik was a serial killer in Philadelphia who lived in his house is still standing. He kept people alive in his basement and tortured them. He notably put screwdrivers into their ears to deafen them. Jeez. So they couldn't hear him coming and going.
What part of Philadelphia?
Do you want to take a guess?
Northeast.
How about neighborhood? Just go neighborhood. Trust me, you got pretty good odds of this one.
Port Richmond?
No.
Kensington?
It was Kensington. It is in Kensington. And he had his house is still standing, by the way.
Pretty easy place
you
to
can
find
look it
zombies,
up
by the way.
You can look it up. It's 3250 Marshall Street, North Marshall Street in like Kensington-ish.
It's the scariest place in Philadelphia.
I mean, aside from the place where they did the move bombing, yeah. But they rebuilt all that. Gary Heidnik's house is still standing, and they don't have to disclose to you that it was a house where they chopped people up, killed them, put them in the walls, all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
He is the inspiration for Buffalo Bob in Silence of the Lambs, because he had a hole. One of the two people he actually killed that we know, he would make them all get in the hole, and then he would like do torture of them with electroshock therapy. Electroshock, not therapy. Well, that stuff's just torture also.
Yeah.
He killed one of them through like shocking them to death from having them get in a hole like in that movie and like staying in the water.
Yeah.
And he would just kidnap people off the street. Specifically, he got his start. So, goddamn, I lost my train of thought. He came back from East Germany. He somehow invested $1,500 with Merrill Lynch, and it grew to $500,000. He was apparently an insanely good investor. Very weird. And
why? So weird.
That shouldn't happen. That should not happen.
And he was good at chopping up bodies. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And so he also founded a church around this time. I forget the exact name of it, but he founded a church. Well, what he did was he would go to like institutionalized facilities and like stuff like that and get black women who were would be categorized as like mentally disabled or whatever and get them as members of his church.
That's his job at the time? What's his other profession at the time?
His job is church.
Okay.
His job is church. This Ken's job is church.
We haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Ken, his job, he's like, my job is beach. That's great. And so, yeah, like he would go around and get like people institutionalized into his church.
Yeah.
That was a similar tactic that one Jim Jones of the Kool-Aid fame did as well. He famously did that in Indiana at that time. Weird thing. Gave him a lot of credit. And so he got like started building this church, and that's where he would meet these women and like kidnap them vis-a-vis these interactions. As far as I understand, he only killed 2 people and like kidnapped like 7. So, and then killed 2. And so like 5 people survived. One of them was allegedly this woman who was pretty much on his side and like helping him do it. But I'm just like, I'm not going to try and figure that part out. Like, I'm sure this is a horribly traumatized person who's been sexually abused. I don't need to figure it out.
A Stockholm syndrome situation.
Anyways, you get the idea. And so like they eventually escape and reveal that he did this, and he went to trial. At this time, also, another person was arrested for being a serial killer about 4 or 5 blocks away. It was a man who was in his he's still alive, actually. I think his name is, I have it right here. I know I have it right here. I just gotta.
It's just like Jim Brooks. It's like one of our uncles.
Yeah. I have it right here. So here's how he's described in the paper and in the book. So don't get mad at me for saying this word. A retarded black man named Harrison Marty Graham was taken into custody and dubbed the Madman of Marshall Street.
We're still talking Philadelphia, correct?
5 blocks away.
Yeah.
Like 5 blocks away. This guy gets arrested around the same time. Now, he's a mentally disabled man with no criminal history before that. And they find a house and they pin it on him, and it's like it's a house with like every closet has a person in it that's been like just like starved to death.
Jesus.
They're all dead. Like it's like,
What
and
the
so
fuck.
yeah, and famously, alleged according to one of the victims, Gary Heidnik claimed he had killed 6 people. They find 5 bodies in that house, and they pin them all on this guy, who like they sentenced him to death, and he's like, "I'd just like my Cookie Monster doll back." Like it's fucked up. Like
Jesus.
yeah, and he's still alive. He's still alive. Gary Heidnik was, I think, the last person executed in Pennsylvania under the death penalty when it was reinstated.
I've heard of him because of the mothers that talk about their like young black daughters that have like were kidnapped, and like nobody's researching this guy. It's like the unfound daughters of Philadelphia. I've heard that story a couple times.
So he went to trial for these crimes. One of his friends turned witness and got totally away with, like, a bunch of the victims claimed like, this guy raped me like a bunch and like trafficked in sexual slavery and stuff. And that guy got totally scot-free.
What year was this?
He gets caught in 86, I believe, which is and like it freaks me out because like that's around the time my mom was like a senior in high school. Our parents
got married.
My mom was a junior in high school at Upper Darby. So
my parents will be like, "Good year, 86, good year."
Our dad had a DUI in 1986.
Sounds like a cool guy.
Dude, yeah,
he like fought a bunch of police.
Yeah, he was double parked in a green Nova in the middle of the street.
Hell yeah.
The way he'll tell this story is so fucking funny, dude. He's like parked in the middle of the street, double parked, drunk with my brother, blah, blah, blah. Cop comes up in my neighborhood to start giving me shit. He was a known homewrecker. It's like how my dad will explain the story. Like this guy was breaking up families and cheating people's wives and shit. He's like, "Brooks, you move your fucking Nova." And he said he didn't say a word, put his hand out the window, flipped the guy off. He pulled him out and he beat the shit out of him. My dad fought him.
They threw his keys into the sewer.
They took his keys for his
beat
Nova,
the shit out of him.
threw him in the sewer, beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, fair enough.
And
you wanted to have a DUI, man. You wanted to go out and have a good time.
They wouldn't let him out because for 2 days straight, every time they would go, "You had enough?" They come in the cell and you fight him every time. So,
I didn't hear no bell, motherfucker.
Yeah, you just fight him 2 days straight. So finally he stops and like they call my mom. They had just got married at this time. They're like, "You got to come get him." Like he just keeps fighting everybody. You got to come get him. And she goes down and gets him, and then they have to go to trial. And it's 3 days before they have to fly to Cancun for their honeymoon.
Nice.
My mom had to beg them not to suspend his license for 2 weeks so that he could drive in Cancun because she's from the city and has never driven a car in her life. Oh. So they stay his DUI so that he can drive in Cancun on their honeymoon. And then when he came back, he had to go through a DUI process.
He's like, "Listen, how am I supposed to drunk drive in Mexico?"
It's not
a crime. I want to point out it's a victimless crime.
Dude, it's a crazy story. He's a nut, but he's awesome.
1986, the murders with.
Oh shit! Yeah,
yeah, dude.
Nice little.
I think it's just
this is
funny.
Like the heaviest stuff I have for you guys. Like this is like the least fun.
This is dope, dude.
This is interesting.
I like to be careful when I talk about like actual like victim crimes in that sense, where it's like directly clear like fucked up stuff, and it's just like I don't want to do like serial and any of that fucked up. Crime. I don't like true crime. I really fucking hate true crime. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, like at that time, this other guy gets pinned with like 5 murders that all match up with exactly what Gary Heidnick's MO, and that's very strange.
Yeah.
And he had claimed he killed 6 people, and one of those people that he killed in his own house hadn't died yet, so that's why he ends up around it.
So he claimed 6. Did he end up getting charged?
He was sentenced to death for all the horrific rape he did to these people and like murder he committed.
You said there were survivors.
Yeah, there were 5 survivors.
Were there any survivors that fingered the I almost said retarded.
That's an insane thing.
I say that as a quote.
Yeah, right. No, Declan was just an asshole. Yeah. No, was there any like the survivors? Did they finger this guy as being a part of it?
So they pretty much never got justice. They got fucked like across the board. Like they barely gave them any compensation. That $500,000 Merrill Lynch trust fund that he had. That went to veterans of like the veterans organization. Like it went to the VA directly.
Yeah,
which is fucking wild.
Weird.
He goes to trial. They pretty much have to go through all these elaborate hoops to prosecute him, even though he clearly committed these crimes. It makes no fucking sense. Like they're not allowing him to like. He seems like he's on Thorazine the whole time. He is drugged up out of his fucking mind.
Because was he violent?
He was just weird. He's a very weird guy. I mean, you can only do so much in a courtroom. I think he was like, and like they just like stared off blankly the whole trial. He never got to really defend himself, which
But is that his normal state of being, or
no,
is okay.
allegedly he was just totally psycho. Like he's nuts. But yeah, he had like an insane like amount of money. He had an insane amount of money, and then like no one could really figure out fucking why. And it was just like weird how that worked.
Made a wicked sauce too.
Well, he was like driving out in a brand new Rolls Royce. He had like a bunch of all sorts of shit. Like it's like he had fuck you money around that time.
Yeah.
So for you not really knowing this, Kensington was like that. I think Walt Whitman talked about when they built the L. They're like, if you want to create poverty and depression in a city, build it in a continuous shadow across the entire city.
You know, you say that, but did you know Walt Whitman was also a pedophile?
I know. I know. Well, it's just like it's a weird fact to bring up around like the development times of. There's a fucking bridge named after him. You know what I mean? Like there's it's a weird timing.
Wait, allegedly, I don't want to get sued.
Yeah, right.
Alleged.
There's somebody that's pro Walt Whitman at home, like you motherfucker, dude. I love that goddamn bridge.
I offend people in ways that I never expect, and then all the ways I would.
Yeah.
Well, I get freaked out particularly by like Kensington because I'm like, why is it like that? Normally, that's a deliberate action by the state.
How bad it is right now, you're saying?
Yeah. So like we've historically like tried to break up like strong black neighborhoods. That's the move bombing. Move bombing. That was like one of the wealthiest black neighborhoods in the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, gets firebombed and all of it burns down on top of just the place where the move thing was happening.
In what year again?
I don't know enough.
I thought that was around the same time, like late 70s or something like that.
My mom saw it on TV, so it's at least in the 70s or 80s. I forget. I don't want to speak on the move bombing without more knowledge.
Yeah.
I will be covering that eventually on my podcast whenever I get that around to do that. But so yeah, Heidnik is put on trial and then sentenced to death. It's like really straightforward, but like a bunch of people around him aren't prosecuted. They're brought in. They all get off scot-free. Weirdly enough, it seemed like a human trafficking operation more so. That's like a very common story in a lot of these serial killer stories. It's more actually human trafficking. John Wayne Gacy is probably closer to a human trafficking story.
Really?
Yeah. So the part that gets left out with John Wayne Gacy, and so I'll get into a weird conspiracy here.
They say it's more fetish.
I don't give a shit with him. Like actually, none of that stuff actually matters. The big part with him, here's what I see it as this is that materialist view of history that you can apply to things.
Yeah.
John Wayne Gacy was heavily part of the Chicago political machine. Directly connected to like the most prominent parts. Actually, crazy fact, him and Obama are like only like maybe like 5 years apart in like what could have been a crazy connection. If he had never been arrested, they would have met like 100%. That's around the same time Obama got involved in Chicago politics. John Wayne Gacy was pretty much running according to this book, John Wayne Gacy was pretty much running a brothel. McGowan alleged it's more of like a snuff style like brothel where people were just getting murdered and like they were trafficking young teens, trafficking like drifters, all that stuff.
Very common things that are always associated, like high groups of power for some reason.
Well, yeah, vulnerable people, poor, POC, all that stuff. And so Gacy probably was just trafficking people for the political machine of the Chicago families and probably got pinned with all of the fucking people they killed. He was probably, like, people got probably killed there all the time, ODs, anything. And he just chuck them under the floor. And like, it's wild because there were like high level Chicago government people in that house. All
So you're saying more like Eyes Wide Shut type shit going on, like
yeah, but less sexy. Because in Eyes Wide Shut, that orgy, they don't even eat pussy in that scene. They're just like, what if I wore a mask?
Fuck, dude. If I'd be hanging out there if I had the chance.
I have a skit planned around one of that scene from that movie. I was like, wouldn't it be hilarious? Like if you had a guy, it's just I come out, I'm in a blindfold doing stand up, just like, oh, not a hot room, damn. Instead of the guy playing piano, I'm just in my underwear. Just, It's like, how'd you end up getting booked as the entertainment? I hate to be the fucking street magic guy they pull off for that. But
fucking card tricks.
That's a very light tangent about Gacy. I don't want to get too crazy in him, but
I've never heard that one before.
I'll give you one more fun one about Obama, though. The guy who wrote that the Obama is gay conspiracy is from Ridley Park in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Well, in Delco.
Not surprised.
Someone's gonna get
Without
so mad
any
at me.
information, I totally believe that.
And the other,
did you know Obama's gay?
Well, there are two versions of it. This guy actually did like legitimate research, is a legitimate journalist, like does good research. The other guy is an InfoWars guy, which fair enough. And he's like lives right over the bridge in Jersey. Like they're so like it's weird that both the guys who did Obama is gay is like that far apart, like within like a 30-mile radius.
That's fucking weird. That is very weird.
The InfoWars guy is like it's based on nothing. It's really lazy and hack. But the guy who did that's from Ridley Park, he alleged he's like, hey, Obama was like a member at this gay bathhouse why?
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I don't care if he's gay. I just want to like, what the fuck is up with this? Why?
Yeah.
And like he alleged that Obama had been in relationships with 3 or 4 people. Most notably, and this is the one that always made it weird to me, was Cal Penn. Do you know who Cal Penn is? He died famously on House, right? Like his character died on House to go work in the Obama White House around the time that Obama was elected. And Cal Penn, only a couple of years ago, came out as gay.
That's fucking
Just-
nuts. Yeah.
I live with all this in my brain at all times, and it makes me insane. And it's just like, yeah, I mean,
You're just at fucking 7-Eleven. You're just hitting a guy with a hot ass take.
I have been very drunk. Just yeah, I hit people with some scary shit. I do the worst pillow talk on earth.
Yeah.
I do this all the time.
Speaking of hitting somebody with hot shit, we're at the karaoke last night. That kid we brought with us, and we don't really know.
I'm not going to say his name. I know his name, but
I always forget I don't know his name very well.
It's all right. He's new.
He's standing there. He's like, "Why did nobody help me with the guy that was bent at 90-degree angles?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "There was a guy while we were all sitting there smoking a cigarette.
Oh, okay.
We didn't notice the
He's
guy
chilling
walking
with a
around
crowbar.
Dude, there's a fucking buddy bar bent in front of him. The guy is bent in a 90-degree angle, harassing him for money, hitting him with conspiracy theories. And he's like, "None of you guys helped me." He was
he'll be fine.
He was just bent facing the ground, yelling at me.
I was outside that bar the other night, and this homeless guy, like, I'm on the phone talking to someone, and I was like, "Dude, I'm sorry, I got nothing for you." And he's like, "I didn't even fucking want anything. What the fuck? Why are you assuming shit?" He's like, "I'll get 300 pagans down right here, right now to come kick your ass." I said, "Bring them all down here. I'll fuck every one of them." I was drunk. I don't know why my threats of violence are that, but
I'll fuck them all.
I'll fuck them all right now. I'll fuck every one of them
Is
pagans.
that a Philly trash move? Talk about how you know pagans.
Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely a move, right?
Well, he's black. I'm like, you're not in the pagan.
Yeah.
What?
I was in DC the other day, and a homeless guy was screaming at me. He was a black guy. I don't know what was going on with him, but I got out of my car. He's like, "You fucking white motherfuckers and all you goddamn Europeans. You know there's fucking boats and planes back to Europe. Get the fuck out of my city." I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
You know where they're at.
Yo, I hadn't gotten out of the car yet in DC. This is the first person I meet. He's just yelling at me. I'm like,
That sounds
"Man,
about right for
stop.
DC.
I just
Yeah.
want to be your friend."
Let me think. Did I have anything else with PTK? Like, so PTK mindset really fucked me up. Like, I read this book. It goes through way more. It talks about human trafficking, particularly child sex trafficking.
Yeah.
It hits a lot of Epstein stuff before it becomes relevant. He writes this book so concisely. It's like, it changed my brain. Anytime I see a crime now, I read it.
This actually makes me think of this. I'm sorry. Does this bring up like the people at the borders, like the?
Yeah, so he argues that like there is some insane fucked up shit going on the border, but mainly he alleges like, according to some of the serial killers who were like probably contracted out through the government, that there are satanic child sex cults, like in the sense like they are like doing like they produce children for human trafficking and ritual sacrifice.
Have you heard of the Finders?
So actually, they are alleged with being the Finders, Henry Lee Lucas and his friend.
That's a DC-based satanic cult.
Well, it starts out in Florida.
Yeah.
Yes, and they find those feral children with it's the Finders are such a weird thing. Like that one freaked me out.
Yeah,
just
that's
so
a creepy one.
I don't even know it. I'm on the edge of my seat.
it's so hard to explain. I don't want to get too. I don't want to get into the Finders.
You said
It's just
feral children. That just fucking
yeah. And Henry Lee Lucas and his friend. Why can I not remember Otis something? And I don't want to say
Otis Redding.
No, Otis Timlin, the Philadelphia comic,
Sitting on the dock.
sucking on a cup.
He's so.
But no,
They basically they had children they were trafficking basically that are people with no identities.
Yeah.
People who are born and there's
well,
no
the guys
record
who
of
had
them
them
living.
Were also weird as fuck.
Yeah.
But there is a major conspiracy that the Finders, two of the Finders guys were Henry Lee Lucas and his friend who had also, it's Otis something. He had also committed multiple, like,
Otis Spunkmeyer.
I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what his name was. He committed, he had like, he somehow got custody of like two of his like cousins' children.
Yeah.
And they had him with them. And it was weird shit like that. The child trafficking stuff in this book is weird. Hypnotism, they pretty much believe hypnotism's real. I pretty much do too as well, particularly with like in the case of RFK and Sirhan, but I won't
Yeah.
like there's a lot of weird shit like that. It just, I remember reading it I was in a coffee shop. Oh, this is I had my freak out moment. Reefer Madness. I was sitting in a coffee shop in Athens, Ohio, reading this book.
That's where it happens.
I would pretty much only read this book a chapter at a time because it's just so intense. I mean, it's dense. I mean, you can kind of see it's like that's.
How many times have you read it?
I've read it twice. Because it stresses. It makes me feel awful. It changed my brain. It changes how you look at crime. It's like you can't trust anything you see. It argues that there's a domestic terrorism program in this country. And it's really hard to argue against it. So when I was reading this book, this is when I had a freak out moment. And then we will get into the Citizens Commission to investigate the
What
FBI.
did the guy look like that you hit with this knowledge bomb? You're like, Jesus Christ, dude.
If I told you it was a girl, mainly the women I'm seeing always.
She was wet.
Yeah. Well, the poor girl that I used to freak out at night. I remember one night I was laying in this girl's bed with her. And it's like I'm sleeping very well.
There were conspiracies.
And no, I'm asleep. Because it started freaking me out. It was and like I'm laying in her bed and I'm against the wall. She's a single. It sucks. I hate her bed. It sucks. And I stand up in the middle of the night. I just like stand straight up and I step over her onto the floor. It's about their bed's like, a little bit lower than the table.
No, the mattress is on the floor.
No. I don't date floor mattress bitches. No, I step over her.
She was on risers.
And I step over it and I start screaming, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. And I'm just like, I walk out of the bedroom. I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck that was about. She's like, well, you were talking about weird shit in your sleep before that. Because earlier that day, I had been reading this book.
You're like,
Program to Kill by David McGowan. Highly recommend it for everyone to read. I'm reading this book and he talks about, hey, there's this group called the Process Church of the United something. I forget what the last part is. Now, the Process Church is a British organization. It's an offshoot of Scientology and Satanism. Their logo is a swastika of variation. And
Always.
Yeah, as always.
That's just Hindu.
And so
Means
like
peace.
And so they're weird. They're like a weird Scientology Satanist sect.
Yeah.
Weird.
And I am just reading that. I was like, cool, whatever. And as I read some more, they're like, yeah, they're now known as the best. They later moved to Utah and became a new organization called the Best Friends Animal Society. It still exists to this day.
Really?
And they are a no-kill animal shelter out in the middle of the fucking desert in Utah, which is weird when you read about fucking Satanists. You should always like, huh. And so like, it's fucking terrifying. And then they're like, I was like reading later that day. Do you remember when like during the pandemic, do you know who Ivy Getty is? Do you know who the Gettys are?
No.
The Gettys are an oil family in LA. They're John Paul Getty, the one where like the grandson was kidnapped and they tried
stations. Getty's.
Yes. Getty. Yeah.
The red Getty.
So Ivy Getty, the heiress of this oil family, is getting married. And she says, in lieu of gift, send donations to these organizations. And Best Friends Animal Society is fucking on there. And I'm like, what the fuck? I should not have seen this. I should not have learned this. I walked out. I like freaked out. I walked home. I sat in my bathtub with my gun and just kind of like, really tried to take everything in, which is like bad. I know I'm like, I shouldn't say I have a gun and then talk about doing that. But like, dude, I was scared. I was like, I should not know this. I should not know. I put those together separately. Those are two different things. This is a book from like 2012. And I was reading that in 2021.
Oh, and how many purchases do you think there's on that book? How many people do you think bought that book?
Oh, it sells out constantly. It's
so
insanely influential.
Can you imagine the fact when you talk about like what they allow to go out and what is and isn't?
Yeah,
the fact that they allow people to learn
this
this
is
and feel this.
This is like self-published too, so it's like even
the fact that there's other people like you that have the same freak out.
We all have one. I've been talking to other people. We all have one.
Itself. They allow it so that people are aware of it. Almost.
There's a podcast inspired by this book called Program to Chill.
That does not match whatsoever.
So this church, they did the rebrand. They did the Xfinity off Comcast type thing. They just like got a new name.
Yeah, and I believe they're like part of like, well, allegedly they are part of probably satanic rituals still to this day.
Jesus.
But
Christ.
actually, the actual thing, so that reveals there. So like they're asking you to donate money to this org. That's weird, right? One of the other things this book reveals pretty much is that all those, like, remember when like Scientology got like tax exemption and all these other like weird cults started getting tax exemption? That is probably due to the fact that they are front organizations for money laundering for like CIA and FBI and all these different organizations. They create these front groups because they can get a lot of fucking cash and they're tax exempt. They will use those. They will 100% use those every time to launder money. And that's probably what's really going on there with that specifically. And it's just weird. It freaked me the fuck out. I was like, that wedding, by the way, was officiated by Nancy Pelosi. The Gettys are wild. All the Money in the World. That was that movie with Mark Wahlberg.
Is it Getty?
Yeah.
Like Getty Images on the internet?
That I think is owned by them, but I could be 100% wrong. Getty is a terrifying family. They're evil. Them and Hearst are both. Well, Hearst was the inspiration for the villain in Citizen Kane, or the character in Citizen Kane. The Gettys, if I remember correctly, are the inspiration for the family and the villain of Chinatown. If you ever seen Chinatown,
No, I don't know.
oh, watch Chinatown. That's crazy.
I feel like I've seen it and I can't reference it.
It's like them and the family from the LA that own the LA Times. All evil fucking people. Okay, speaking of the LA Times, let's pivot. So that's PTK. It should change your brain. I highly recommend it. I'll answer any more questions anyone has on it. If you have anyone that's listening that wants to know more,
Yeah.
I'll freak people out with PTK all day.
How about right now we can mention how to get in contact with you and things you're doing right now?
I am the Rhinestone Cowboy on Instagram.
Hell yeah.
You can message me. You can always DM me on Instagram. That's really the main thing. I'm always at Philadelphia comedy mics. I don't know. It probably would freak me out if people came up to me and were like, "Hey, sir, do you want to talk about conspiracies?" And I'm just like,
or even if someone just walked up to you like, "Have you read Program to Kill?" That's when you pull out your gun. And you're like, "Let's go sit in my fucking tub, dude.
Let's go sit in the tub and talk about Program to Kill."
You can always find me on Instagram at Declan Loves Meatballs. It's one of my favorite things I've created. That's all I have going for me is my Instagram name.
There's a recent video of you singing Mona Lisa and Mad Hatters.
Yeah, I was ripping it up last night.
Taken by yours truly.
Nice.
No one took a video of me singing Vehicle by the Ides of March. I was having a great time.
Brother, ripped it apart.
I get way too drunk at karaoke.
It is fun.
I'll do that. I'll do Britney Spears.
We were at the 700 Club.
700, not 700 Club.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought it was the club.
I say it all the time. Pat Robertson's dead though, so it's not him.
We were ripping up a gay trans friendly mic. It was pretty fun.
Nice.
Really hard nice, but it was so weird. I said this to somebody. I'm like, they were eating bowls of like some type of like Asian food from nearby. Man, we walked into weird smells last night, dude.
People
weird
really
smells.
need smacked when they chew with their mouth open.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
My parents instilled that in me very hard, very hard.
Our father is a
heavy
insane
mouth
culprit.
chewer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's so bad.
I know. I yell at people. I've gotten to the point where I'll be at restaurants and yell at people. I'm like, can you please chew with your mouth fucking closed?
Mm-hmm.
I've been yelled at to leave. I'm like, which is fine. I'm like, at that point, I'm like, I'd rather just leave. I can't.
Yeah.
It makes me insane. So recently when I moved to Philadelphia last year around this time, I've only been here a year. I live in Delaware County, by the way. I live in Delco. I used to stay in Philly every summer. Well, I used to stay in Delco every summer. That was my summer vacation, which everyone laughs at when I tell them.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know, like,
Going
Delco
from
was
Ohio to
vacationing.
Delco.
It'd be funny if I said I stayed in Kensington every summer instead, but like,
Yeah, right.
that's the only thing I could probably say that's worse.
Delco vacation. There's two words
That's
have
your
never
vacation.
been
I
said
love
together.
it, man. It was the best. Let me go.
Did you go to Wildwood and everything when you would come here in the summer? All right, cool.
We go to Jersey. We go to Jersey. Yeah,
He
fuck
saw
it.
more than just the Delaware River. You know what
So
I mean?
our senior week for our high school, we grew up to, we would go to Wildwood, New Jersey.
That's our thing.
Is
Prom
that the one?
weekend.
That's the one. Wait.
It's one with the drugs and the fighting.
What's the one with Park? The Wildwood Park. With the,
Maury's Pier.
yeah,
Maurice
I love
Pier,
that place.
yeah.
I
Yep,
love it.
there's
So
3
much.
piers.
It is crazy. I never got molested at that.
Man, dude, we have friends that have. You ever heard of the roving gangs of teens that would knock out children and steal their shoes at the boardwalks?
No, but they sound cool.
We have Raymond has a friend specifically that was knocked out and they robbed him and took his shoes and he woke up in a hospital.
Fuck yeah. Okay, so I work.
I have a friend like that too.
I work out in media, PA, which is the county seat.
I can't wait to hear this one.
And I was walking around one night and I see this big, like, Pennsylvania plaque for like commemorative sites.
Of a
Yeah.
historical moment.
Yeah. This is the site where in 1970, it's 1971, where a bunch of burglars broke into this FBI office and revealed that the government tried to kill MLK and was also doing domestic spying. And
Wait, who said this to you? I'm sorry.
Raymond, he's in media, PA. He's in media. He's walking around in media one night and he sees a plaque
I am drunk.
That-
I'm drunk as a skunk
that
outside.
documents a FBI office that was robbed that released a bunch of information about MLK.
It's the most influential break-in of all time.
Like predates
Really?
what Watergate and what's the other event you said?
The Pentagon Papers, Watergate, and also like led to the Church Committee and revealing what COINTELPRO was, and the Family Jewels, which was the CIA's assassination program.
This is just a city hall in fucking media down the street from where I live.
Yeah.
I never knew this.
I was ready to lose my shit when I saw this. I'm like, what the fuck?
You had
So-
that book in your hand. You're like, "Here's my gun. Who's got a tub?"
No, I was with my friend, and I'm just like, what the fuck? She's like, yeah, I thought I told you. I'm like, you never told me this. If I would,
What? Yeah.
And like, I walked by it multiple times. I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? It was just one of those weird moments. Like, I shouldn't be seeing this. I should know about this. I should leave.
Yeah.
So what was so important about this?
So what happened in the Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI? They were a peace activist group. There was a heavy peace activist group in Philadelphia, which is weird. And they decided like just standing around and bitching about the Vietnam War wasn't really that effective. And so they're like, fuck it, we're going to do real action. And instead of breaking into the FBI office in Philadelphia, they chose in the middle of nowhere, Delco.
Yeah.
And they broke in, they took as many records as they could. One of them like disguised themselves as a lady wanting to do like research on the FBI for like women in the FBI. And it was like, that's nice. That's actually a pretty good bit. And they
She pulled the slut move. She's like, oh, I dropped my pen.
She made herself not look like anything like anyone knew. Like she tried to change her appearance, everything. And she breaks in. Well, she goes in there, scopes it out. The next night they come back.
Brandon's put on a clinic.
They
over
go
here,
in and they break in. And they break in the night of the Muhammad Ali Frazier fight, March 8th. Because they knew everyone would be watching it. And there was a guy who lived in the building. They would know what's going on. It would cover up. Like everyone had, yeah. And so they went in and they took every goddamn file they could find. They just took anything. They didn't know what they were taking. They took it. Then they start to go through it. And they're like, what the actual fuck? Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. And they send it to a bunch of reporters. They sent it to Senator George McGovern, who lost the 1972 presidential election to Nixon, one of the worst blowouts. He's like that. Yeah. He's a proto Bernie Sanders. George McGovern, who just turned it back over to the FBI, and they're like, "What the fuck?" And they didn't realize what had happened for a second, and they're just like, "What the fuck?" And they also sent it to this reporter named Betty Metzger, who was a Washington Post journalist. Now, the Washington Post got this before they ever got the Pentagon Papers from Daniel Ellsberg, which were the ones Nixon's Watergate controversy was where they broke into his psychiatrist's office. And then the other one was the Watergate scandal itself with Woodward and Bernstein. Those follow this. So this event lays the groundwork for how they're going to cover those things.
It's crazy. I've never heard of this.
No, neither have I.
And so they discovered pretty much fundamentally that the FBI, if you were a black person in college, the FBI was spying on you 100%, like always.
In the 60s.
70s and 60s, yeah.
Okay.
Just in general. And that also there was a deliberate effort to counteract radical groups anywhere. And they were doing infiltrations. The Black Panthers famously, like, pretty much there was no one who didn't flip, like, for the Black Panthers, which is really sad because they were probably like one of the most effective organizations. And like they were going after everyone. This is a program called COINTELPRO. And so I mentioned earlier with Chaos, that is probably like with Charles Manson. Yeah, that is probably a COINTELPRO program to stop the Black Panthers or put them at war with neo-Nazi. Well, everyone always forgets this about Charles Manson. He was a Nazi, like famously so. Like he was, swastika carved into his head. He was a fucking white supremacist. He was a fucking insane person, and like he wasn't a hippie, like in any capacity.
Yeah, no.
And so they would just infiltrate all these groups and try to destroy them from within. They were doing everything they could, and then the big thing, and this is what led to a civil suit that they won later, the FBI was trying to get MLK to commit suicide by blackmailing him with info about affairs that he had been having, which, whatever, nice. Yeah. Listen, you think this civil rights movement's going to lead itself? You know, like, you earned it. I don't think anyone can get mad. I'm kidding.
Gotta bring the people together with this dick. You know what I mean?
He was a hero. He was later assassinated under suspicious terms. I don't really know too much about the MLK assassination, but the U.S. government lost a civil suit against them by his family for clearly being involved with his assassination. Mm-hmm. So that's weird.
It doesn't make sense.
It's like, really weird. It doesn't even make sense that guy did it.
Yeah, that and the witnesses, the people that came up to find him, their accounts don't make sense. You know what I mean?
MLK was assassinated by the U.S. government 100%. Like, I will not doubt that. I don't even have to say alleged with that one. They wanted him dead.
Had he attempted any suicides?
I don't know about that, but they were trying to get him to commit assassination. Also, his brother died like a month after he did. Mm-hmm. There's weird shit like that. Like, his brother died like just floating in the pool.
Really?
Yeah, he had a massive heart attack. And then they're like, well, the African-American community suffers from cardiac issues at a higher rate than whatever. It's like, shut the fuck up. You probably killed all of them. I don't care. Fuck you.
Dude, by the way, a weird thing that just happened recently. LeBron James' son and a 17-year-old.
That massive heart attack? Yeah.
Dude, the number one high school prospect in basketball in the country, 17 years old, had a heart attack and died recently.
Yeah.
What?
Recently.
Wait, Bron?
No, not Bronny. The next
class.
Yeah, I know. Bronny had a heart attack. The next class down, The 17-year-old that was the number one in the class had a heart attack and died on the court. They tried to resuscitate him and he died.
Fuck.
So like I know
Fucking
where
bizarre.
people are
It's so
going with that
bizarre.
stuff, and I'm not going to say it because you guys probably can't upload this if I say it. But a certain disease that if you mention like causing issues like that can get you in a lot of trouble.
I'll cut it out. I don't care.
I'm not worried about it, but I'm not going to get into that because I don't believe that per se. Dude, high schoolers are on fucking roids and like HGH and everything on earth, right?
Yes.
Like
When we were in high school,
sorry.
everybody was on some type of.
Didn't like LeBron James like get like a nude leak? Someone saw his dick and it's like really fucked up and small looking allegedly.
I don't know.
Like,
I don't believe
because he's on so many. Because he's on all that shit. Like,
I'm not on Black Twitter.
You just felt better about yourself. You're like, hell yeah.
oh yeah.
I was like, I'm not on
I
Black
got a bigger dick than LeBron. My dick is the LeBron James of dicks. I mean, like in how it looks, but
He's got an Irish thumb.
it's got a really fucked up hairline, and
That's what I call the little Irish dick is the Irish thumb.
I wouldn't know.
Goddamn Irish
anything,
thumb.
Yeah, no, like so many of those people are like high schoolers are just on like if you're like at the higher level of performance, like you are just on roids or HGH.
Do you remember when we were in high school how big that one substance that makes you get skinny?
Winstraw.
No. It was like it was the cutting agent they used for horses that everybody
I
was.
thought it was Winstraw.
Ivermectin? Hell yes.
No. It was like clenbuterol,
Oh, okay.
clenbuterol or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
It was this substance that basically makes you just cut weight like insanely. It was like,
But that would make you build strength.
Winstraw.
No.
Exactly.
See, that's different though. Like I mean, you don't need to be skinny for basketball. You need HGH.
yeah, but
Everyone
people are cycling at the same time.
because like I mean, Rogan revealed like he's not natty. I mean, he's HGH and like a bunch of other like.
He's been very active in being.
And then
honest
blood
about
doping. Blood doping apparently can cause heart issues. Apparently, that's
the oxygenation, right?
yes. Michael Phelps and all them were doing that.
Yeah.
that. It's cycling
Highly
pre-oxygenated blood.
enriched. Yeah.
Fuck, dude, I'd do that.
I don't care what anyone does. But it was funny. Like, remember when like Simone Biles, who's only like 4'9", I learned.
I had an Uber driver in Philly one day tell me this elaborate
Or was it
story.
Belays?
He's like, who else but Simone Biles was in the back of my car. And he like told me this like elaborate story about it. I was like, yeah, sure, pal. He's like, and she was in this rough neighborhood in West Philly. I don't know what the hell she was doing.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, he had this
you remember, like,
crazy-
there was that huge
He
controversy.
made it sound like she was at like a fucking party. in
There's
West
that huge
Philly.
controversy around her at the Olympics. She's like, I'm not going to compete for this one thing, and it's like, oh, it's because they banned you can't be on speed anymore and do the Olympics.
Yeah.
So many of the American athletes are just abusing speed like crazy.
Remember when they got Carlos Ruiz? He was just shredding Adderall.
Yeah.
Like 08?
Yeah.
Yeah, the catcher for the Phillies.
Dude, how about the Tyler Skaggs, the pitcher? All
Yeah.
the shit that came out after
Skaggs.
that came out after him.
That's the
He was,
thing.
like, heavy
In baseball
Percocet
now, you don't get thrown out of the league.
They shouldn't. It's baseball. I don't.
Yeah.
It's tag with extra steps.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. They have a bat in there. They should let them fight like it's the NFL. I mean, NHL.
I love that now that the steroid area has like met its eclipse. That people are like, why do we hate the steroid area? It was like the best. Everybody always like it's a very popular like theory within
Yeah.
baseball now. It's like why do we chastise these people? It was probably one of the most explosive, important parts of baseball.
Baseball's boring as shit if
Yeah,
it
it
doesn't
is.
have people using drugs constantly.
Yeah,
I love baseball. I
that's why
really
there's
do.
people with dipping and just yelling at each other.
Yeah, you can be fat and be in the fucking MLB. It's the only one.
Yeah.
They got rid of that in curling. They have they have fucking like weird looking guys in curling. Used to be guys just smoking and drinking the whole time. You used to hold a beer while at the Olympics. It's
Yeah.
That's why I watch Olympic men's softball.
it's supposed,
True to form.
It's supposed to be amateur. Come on.
Have you guys been watching like ESPN at all recently?
Dude, somebody told me ESPN's been going crazy.
We could go pro cornhole. Like they have units. There's fucking units.
Dude, there's actually a guy with
think either of
no-
you could go pro cornhole.
Listen, this is how
I think you would
far
both
off.
get fucked up.
This is
Get
how
your shit
far off
punched
I
in
am
by
from
a guy
going
with no
pro.
teeth.
This is how far off I am from going pro and cornhole. There's a guy with no arms and legs.
Dude,
It's a pro cornhole.
Dude,
there's a pro
fucking throwing it with his
fisherman.
mouth.
There's a pro fisherman. A large,
there was a quadruple amputee from the town over from me that was a wrestler.
bro, he's got this rod in his hand. Like,
Hell
I'm
yeah.
ripping whips, dude.
Hell yeah.
It's so fucked up.
Oh fuck, man.
It's crazy, dude. It's fucking crazy.
Oh fuck. Let me see what.
Yeah, dude.
Where were we at?
No, we were talking about
COINTELPRO Pro.
Yeah, we were finishing up the end of how MLK's brother also just happened to die suddenly.
Yeah, it's just really weird.
What,
Like
you said the weird, but the weird tangent you said you didn't want to say. Is it sickle cell anemia? Is that what you were looking to?
no, it was a certain disease that came up recently. You may have
COVID.
heard, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I like to avoid saying because I don't really believe a lot of that stuff. But whatever, like it's fine.
It's just weird.
I just like because people want to attribute it to like that.
Dude, that's racist. Sickle cell anemia. He just said black people have sickle cell anemia.
Well, it's not black.
talking
It's
about young
Mediterranean
black
people.
children.
Yeah, my sister when she was born, she had to get tested for sickle cell anemia because she's
I
Moroccan.
just assumed.
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes over here, I thought you had meant sickle cell anemia.
No,
I was like, by the way, I just want to make sure.
Well,
Sickle cell
everyone tries to
anemia.
hold up that one is the reason why all these people are getting like weird heart conditions. Not that this country is awful.
Yeah.
And not that our food's overprocessed.
Everything you eat is bad for you.
No value to you.
If I literally eat a pear made in America, I'm now more.
I ate a cheeseburger for breakfast today.
I mean, I am eating Wawa fucking sandwiches. I eat 6 of them while I'm in my mail truck. They're like, were you high? Were you drunk? I'm like,
Before
no.
we walked in, I had a handful of cheese, and I said, "Gotta get some cheese in me."
Oh,
Dude.
fuck. Okay.
Road cheese?
Road cheese. So COINTEL Pro is just it's a fucking disruptive program to like destroy like domestic like it's like to be counterinsurgency against all these.
Is a lot of this stuff on documents that have been released?
So the crazy thing, so like there were tons of conspiracies in the 60s all about like the stuff the US government was in the 50s and the 60s, like about Korea, weapons testing, biological weapons, all sorts of stuff being done around the world. And we couldn't prove it. Peter Dale Scott, notably, who wrote The Road 9/11 and like he's like he's like the OG like guy if you like want to read someone who really knows his shit. He talked about how all the stuff that came out from the Church Committee, which followed all these documents. This is Frank Church, senator from Idaho, did this huge committee. It was to investigate. It revealed the family jewels, which was the CIA's assassination program of foreign leaders, which they've only ever admitted to, I think, killing 2 leaders. No, they admitted to killing 1, and I forget which one it is. But the other one that they alleged they're like, we were gonna kill him, but then we didn't. He just died unrelated through mercenaries that probably work for us. The leader of Ghana, I forgot his name off the top of my head. Fuck, I'm losing it, man.
Muammar Gaddafi.
No, Muammar Gaddafi.
Oh.
Muammar Gaddafi rocks.
Just throw a name.
Muammar Gaddafi.
I've
gave
heard
money to the Black Panthers and the IRA.
Didn't we have a conversation with John about this too?
I have a friend down here. We had him on the pod, John the Turk. He's a young Turkish gentleman.
Dude, he's got some very interesting
You guys are
theories.
lucky I'm not fucking Greek. I'd be turning this table over right now.
I thought you were Greek, and I was gonna have him just fucking come in and get in the pod like as
What's
you
up,
were here.
you cocksucker?
No, I have no issues with Turks.
No,
I actually really like Turkey. I want to go.
But he had an interesting take on Gaddafi.
people love him.
You should love him. He's great.
His people
Yeah.
loved him. Is
Oh,
what he
that's-
brought up. That
yeah.
was the one thing. It's like
Libya
it was
fucking
bizarre.
awesome.
That's why I had asked him about it because I was like, it's bizarre. His people like stabbed him in the ass with swords in the streets, but apparently his people
There
loved
was a
him.
bounty for him. Of course they fucking did. Yeah. No, so the role of Gaddafi was that he was the boogeyman of the US, like in the sense of just for convenience. And he was always willing to play nice. He gave up a bunch of old mustard gas shells maybe in like I think the 80s.
Same form as Bin Laden.
No, a little different. Gaddafi had power actually, like, and wasn't like he was part of a country. And he
Bin
believed
Laden has been touted as being a made-up individual.
that is an actual conspiracy. Yes, there's
That's
a major
that he's
conspiracy that
really
Bin Laden
was
doesn't
never
actually
real.
exist, but I would disagree.
Gaddafi preached things that would help his people.
They built the largest aqueduct in Africa, and we blew it up in 2011. Obama should be in jail for at most all the shit we did in Libya. I'm like 100. Him and Clinton both. We were running that ambassador that got killed. We were running a gun running operation in Libya. It's fucking crazy. When like we destroyed.
Is that the Nicolas Cage movie?
Oh wait, it's like the Benghazi. What you're talking about, Benghazi, like the Benghazi movie, right?
I think so. Yeah.
That's like a soldier movie. I don't care about that one. I don't know.
That's 13 hours. by
That's
the way.
13 hours, yes. And it's like, I don't mean to be rude in saying that and dismissing it, but it's like, no, we were running like a gun running trafficking operation there. I don't really feel bad for people who.
I was thinking of Lord of War.
That's
what I was
Lord of
thinking.
War is, yeah, that's
That's a great Nicolas
well,
Cage
no,
movie.
the U.S. doesn't need to do that. We can appoint a guy the ambassador to fucking Libya. And he can just do, Shirley Temple was the ambassador to Ghana. Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
That's crazy.
Shirley Temple was CIA'd up.
Yeah.
She was in there. She was the ambassador to 3 different
made a
countries.
hell of a drink, dude.
Yeah. Well, have you read then when she got married, her name was Shirley Temple Black, and that's another drink. You can get a Shirley Temple Black, which I don't know what the black is. I don't want to
Coca-Cola? I don't know.
No,
gin?
it's like with it's the liquor they use with no.
Gin?
I saw you smile.
What did you say? Did you say something
Gin and
racist?
You smiled. So you thought of something racist. I saw it for me.
I was going to say something worse, but I
Okay.
didn't.
Well, okay. So
It's actually with water.
like when you see like celebrities get appointed to ambassadors, you should assume that country's about to get fucking their shit rocked. Like it's bad. Anytime you see something like that, it is dangerous.
Mark Wahlberg,
well-
the ambassador to fucking. I'm just saying, like, it's
Vietnam.
comical. It's like, oh yeah, he's actually the new Myanmar.
No, Vietnam. Because he beat the shit out of that Vietnamese guy. Come on.
Dude, we're gonna go to Myanmar and we're gonna help these people.
Listen, I'm telling you, if I was there, it wouldn't have gone down like that. We should those moderate rebels. Anyway,
Donnie's gonna fuck them up.
yeah, we're gonna make burgers for him. What the fuck were we? Oh, the church committee. Yeah, the church committee just revealed all the fucked up shit they were doing. Like, it is a consequential. It brought the CIA, reined them in the sense of the CIA, then instead of trafficking drugs, which allegedly they don't do anymore, the Saudi Arabians now just give them money to do intelligence work now. That's, yeah, they fund them. So, and like, there was a movie that I highly recommend. It's called The Parallax View that like hits all of that really heavily. It's a
Parallax View.
The Parallax View, starring Warren Beatty and Mr. McFeeny from Boy Meets World.
Nice.
It's a crazy movie. I was working on a music video for my friend. Their band is called The Wastemen. I'm doing a lot of plugs now. The Wastemen, they're great.
Shout out to the Wasteman.
Both their albums are awesome. I was doing a music video for one using a sequence from the Parallax View, this brainwashing sequence to assess if you were a competent person for a serial killer. Not a serial killer or like a government actor. That movie, it really solidified my theory that this is a really fringe conspiracy belief I have. On top of all the others I've expressed.
I was gonna say which one.
No, this one's fringe. This is weird. I don't believe any plane crash has happened through accident. Fundamentally,
It's Leonard Skinner.
yeah.
That's a fucking weird one, dude. And their site, the fucking all the statues and plaques and the story and everything that they perpetuate about it. It's fucking bizarre.
So my theory around this is that so the rule of like plane crashes is if it doesn't crash in the first 30 seconds of takeoff, it's malpractice. There's something fucked up happening. You have guys like John Tower, senator from Texas, who dies that way around the same time as a bunch of other people are getting killed and cleaned up that were involved in some fucked up shit in the government.
Yeah.
Paul Wellstone, senator from Minnesota, he was like the actual OG Bernie Sanders. He was replaced by Jesse Ventura when Jesse Ventura was governor. Jesse Ventura replaced him with a
Minnesota, right?
yeah. He replaced him with a Republican instead of a Democrat. And like, this is the most left-leaning senator in the country.
Yeah.
And he replaces him with a Republican after he refuses to vote for the Iraq War. And they tell him, you're John Ashcroft, if I remember correctly, the Secretary of Defense. I don't know, one of them. It doesn't matter. John Ashcroft. He says, you're going to fucking pay for that. And then he dies in a plane crash the next fucking day. And it's like, that's crazy. Jim Croce.
Yeah.
His doesn't make sense. John Denver's. There are tons of them. The Day the Music Died, the Big Bopper, Buddy Holly, and Richie Valens. That one is the plane broke in like 30 seconds. Famously, there's another one. A month after 9/11, 747 fucking crashed right in Brooklyn, straight into a fucking neighborhood. Like that never gets stuck. All 280 fucking people killed on board.
I don't even know that.
Yeah, it took off right down.
The day after 9/11, you said?
A month after 9/11 or two. I forget one of those two. I forget exactly which. And so, like, that makes sense. It's like those planes crash within, yeah. Other than that, planes shouldn't fucking crash. And all those musicians were all on fucking like, hey, if we ever like decide to round people up, all the musicians are getting right in a fucking camp. Which I'm like, damn, it sounds like that place would suck. But
There's a very bizarre part about the Skinner story where the entire town, this like fucking nonsense bumfuck town,
yeah,
apparently saw the entire crash and rounded up a fucking search party. Of tractors and fucking ATVs and horses, and apparently went out and rescued them.
Yeah.
It's such a bizarre story though, because it doesn't like line up. And like they took off with complications on the plane and without enough fuel. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Why is that documented?
I also don't think the government's trying to kill Leonard Skinner.
Yeah, but it was like what they were representing something at the time for like just their like immediate growth and their popularity.
No, they're loving Leonard Skinner. That's every helicopter scene in
Honestly,
every movie.
the locals
they wrote all
made
the
that
best
happen.
Vietnam songs.
And they're like, God, the locals are gonna love this when at least half of Leonard Skinner gets out of that.
And then they just murdered them.
Yeah.
Bunch of fucking ex-army guys.
So that story, this whole like committee to investigate the FBI story, like that was shot down by Katharine Graham, the owner of the Washington Post. They eventually did release it, but Katharine Graham fucking sucks. I hate her. She was played by Meryl Streep recently in The Post. The Post is one of the worst fucking Steven Spielberg movies I have ever goddamn
That
seen.
woman's filthy too. Dude.
Who? Oh, Katharine Graham or
No,
Meryl?
Meryl Streep.
No.
I don't think
She's cool.
she comes off as she's filthy.
Nah.
Okay, I believe you.
No, Meryl Streep's actually cool. The one that no one should trust is fucking Tom Hanks because he's spooked up bad. Like he is in with the CIA hard.
It's ruined every Tom Hanks movie for me.
What do you mean? Most Tom Hanks movies are ruined by Tom Hanks, except Philadelphia, the greatest Tom Hanks movie.
The worst Tom Hanks movie ever is Terminal.
Yeah, fine.
The guy that lives in the terminal.
Yeah, he never got in trouble for that one. Everyone's like, "Oh, you played a mentally disabled person as a joke in a movie, Ben Stiller," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, that was the idea." Sean Penn literally has played multiple mentally disabled people. Jodie Foster did.
Yeah,
she has sex with Liam Neeson. He's like, I have to have sex with this mentally ill.
I Am Sam is that's a tearjerker.
No,
dude.
it's not. Stop. I Am Sam is dumb.
Stop.
So yeah, I just really hate The Post. I really want to emphasize how much I fucking hate that movie. It sucks so much. Steven Spielberg is dumbass. I don't really
watch a lot of new movies and stuff just because I feel
everything
like it's
Spielberg has
bullshit.
made recently is bad, except for The Fablemans. That was fine. I have not liked a recent Spielberg movie at all. Yeah, he made a movie about The Post because it was like the worst like movie of like this is important to watch Trump era style film.
Got any weird theories on Stephen King? Because I've heard some very weird theories on Stephen King.
Do you know about the theory that he shot John Lennon?
No. Yes, I'm so happy. Yeah.
So Stephen King, there's a whole theory that
I can't believe I just brought that up.
There is the whole theory that he killed John Lennon because he kind of just looks like Mark David Chapman. And I'm like, damn, that is
why is that a problem?
He just kind of looks like him, which is not.
Who's Mark David Chapman?
The guy who shot John Lennon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I want you to take a.
I thought you were saying that Stephen King shot him. He looks like Mark David.
Take a
Chapman.
look at that photo. There's a guy who drives around, I think L.A., with a van that says Stephen King shot John Lennon, like all over it. He got a new van recently, so good on him. Glad to see the economy has not affected that guy. Bidenflation or whatever the fuck it is.
You know, I believe it. I believe everything.
It's just that is the new van on there. Nice. Yeah, so he just believes that just based off the fact that John Lennon just like Stephen King just kind of looks like him.
Yeah.
But Mark David Chapman he's got some spooked up connections as well, and like they probably assassinated John Lennon as well. Even though he was like the most annoying he ever was at that point. He's sitting in fucking Central Park, well not Central, but he's got that Central Park apartment fucking sitting there with a giant white piano. He's like, imagine if you didn't own anything. Wouldn't that be nice? I was like, shut the fuck up, you piece of shit. He's like, imagine not having stuff. It's like, you
dude, the two most annoying people ever. John Lennon and Yoko Ono.
Yep. She's cool. I don't mind her. I just, God damn, yeah, he sucks. I like. I mean, yeah, no, but that's like the only major theory I know about him. So that's a fun little fact.
I'm so happy that just spiraled.
If anyone wants a fun read, but Stephen King, I don't really. Oh, the Stephen King killed the guy who killed him. Well, no, hit him with his car. That's the other one I know.
What is it?
Stephen King was hit by a vehicle famously and was like hospitalized and like it near destroyed his life. It caused like massive drug addictions and. He gets through that. The guy who hit him with that car is trying to sell the car and he buys it and destroys it so no one can. And then coincidentally, a couple years later, that guy who hit him with the car dies on the same painkillers that Stephen King was like addicted to from getting hit by that same vehicle. Weird. I don't know. It could probably just.
I've heard some like theories he's CIA'd up hard too.
I don't see what the utility would be in that, but also, well, actually, so he wrote a book called 11/22/63 about the JFK assassination. He's like, yeah, I did so much research and I've concluded that like it could only have been Lee Harvey Oswald, which is like, you did the shittiest research of all time. Like there is no fucking way you could have fucking done that and concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone or if there wasn't at least a conspiracy.
Yeah.
So I don't respect him for that in a sense, but I like Stephen King. I think he's like young adult fiction fundamentally. Like I don't think people should really
That's crazy that he's come to that conclusion.
Yeah, I mean whatever. He probably got a fuck ton of money to do it.
Yeah.
I'm like he's whatever. I like Stephen King. He's fine.
Yeah.
Those are the two I know, the famously. I love that.
If you've made it this far, thanks for listening. You can follow Adomas on Instagram at Rhinestone Cowboy. Also follow Declan at Declan Loves Meatballs, and myself at Ray_Brooks, Brooks. See you guys.